And welcome to another episode of Staying Power, a show that is all about building a better life. And all the ways you think we mean it when we say that, we do mean it. And every week we come together to talk about one element of building a better life, whatever that might be. And we hope that it resonates with you and that you laugh along the way. And by we, I mean myself, JDK Winnikin. Nice to have you all with us again. And my co-host, my friend, my co-collaborator, my co-producer, so many things. And it's a special day. Ashley's going to be in the spotlight today. Ashley Kniebel, hi.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
All right. How are things going?
They're great.
Yeah.
It feels really good to be back in the studio.
I bet you are back from vacation.
I am.
How was your vacation real quick before we get started?
Thank you for asking. It was great. I mean, much needed time off. So I'm like, was it great because I needed the time off so bad, or it was great because it's great? Maybe a little of both. But it was really nice to like completely unplug and disengage from all screens and just be able to really rest in many different ways.
That's
So,
awesome.
it's
That's
good.
awesome. We've done episodes before talking about rest. And so well done in living out what you preach. On that.
Thanks.
Nicely done.
I really try.
But you're right. It is nice to be back in the studio.
Yeah.
So really nice to have all of you back with us as well, listeners, whether you're listening live on 1150 AM KKNW in Seattle, or you're watching us on our live stream on our YouTube channel. We're happy to have you. Obviously, if you're listening to this as a podcast, whenever it is, welcome to the show. And we're super happy to have you. And if you want to know anything more about us, including how to get in touch with us, the show notes at all those places I just mentioned have all the links to us, our email, stayingpowershow@gmail.com, as well as our social media feeds. You can direct message us there, like, DM us like all the cool kids do. So, Ashley, you know me, the historian, right?
Oh, yes.
I keep track of dates. These things matter. A few weeks ago, I realized we were coming up on the 1-year anniversary of you joining the show.
Has it really been a year already?
A year tomorrow. Yes. Wow. Thank you, Eric. Yeah, a year ago tomorrow, as a matter of fact.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, now
Wow.
we pre-recorded the episodes, right? So they didn't premiere until a little later.
Sure.
But your first experience sitting here in this very studio, in the very chair you're sitting in right now, was a year ago tomorrow. How about that?
That is so hard to wrap my head around. Wow.
Yeah, and it got me thinking about not so much anniversaries, but how much things can change and things can grow in ways that we don't anticipate in just a year.
Oh, sure.
So I'm thinking today, let's talk a little bit in that context. Let's talk about the last year.
Okay.
Let's talk about your experience on this show.
So
And
exciting.
and for all of you listening, if you've been with us since the beginning of this, I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts. And in fact, Ashley, I'm going to tease a little bit. I've already heard from some people on their thoughts on the last year. So I'm going to share some of those a little bit later. However, for listeners who've been with us since the very beginning, you know that Ashley has brought a lot to this show since she came on. And I know, Ashley, from our work together, that you have learned a lot, and there's a lot of new things for you that started back then that now probably feel, like you got a handle on. And I know for me personally, there's been a lot to this, and I'll share more about that a little bit later. But first of all, thanks for being here for a year. Thanks. I mean, congratulations on putting up with me for a year. I mean, that's the first thing. Let's just start right there.
Oh my gosh.
Because I know I'm a bit much.
No, I mean, no, I would not say you're a bit much. You're more than a bit, but you're really great. You're really great, JD. You have made this a really fun experience, and it has always felt so much more smooth than I ever thought it would.
Oh,
And
good.
I do think it's just your expertise and your ability to help me calm myself down and feel really strong and sure of myself, even in a moment when I don't know what I'm doing, like my first episode. So, yeah.
I think you were better at that than you thought. But so I just kind of going back a little bit. Your first impressions, if you can rewind for a year, on your initial thought on becoming co-host, I know you were excited,
Mhm.
right? You were excited at the opportunity. When did you get nervous? Was it when you sat in the chair for the first time? How was that for you?
I was definitely nervous the first time I sat in the chair. First time, like, hearing myself in the, like, the headphones and all that was so strange. It was a little bit easier because I'm like, "Okay, we're just recording something, like, if I
Mhm.
mess up or I say something wrong or, misspeak, we could just fix it." I will
Mhm.
say I think I was the most nervous I've ever been when we actually went live, because then
Mm.
I was like, "Oh my gosh." Like, there's no fixing
There's no
anymore, like,
fixing.
you're on, and it needs to be as best and correct and right as possible, and that's it, and it almost felt like public speaking, but you can't see your audience, which is very unnerving,
Mhm.
actually,
Yeah,
so
and yet you have to have an ear for the audience as well,
yeah,
right? Particularly when you're doing it live, because
yeah,
people are listening in, and you kinda have to be a little bit aware in a conversation what somebody who's listening might wanna
mhm,
know about, right? And
mhm,
there's always a challenge there.
yep.
So, alright, so was there anything that surprised you when you started?
At it surprised me how quickly I felt like I caught on to how it all worked and
Mhm.
the level of comfortability that settled in quickly.
Comfortability, that's a good word.
I don't even think that is a
It
word.
isn't, but it works right now. Go ahead.
But it's like I started to feel comfortable really quickly, and I expected myself to just take some period of time since when I started here, I had never spoken into, like, a microphone like this. I've never been in
Mhm.
a recording studio, never been on the radio, like, nothing of that nature at all whatsoever, so I
Mhm.
was like, "Oh, it's probably gonna take me a real extensive period of time to get all this down and whatnot," and I think it was, like, within a couple of recordings, it just felt like second nature.
Yeah, that was my impression. Each time you got more and more comfortable, and
Yeah.
I think we were only a month or 2 in when it just felt like you'd been doing
It
this.
felt like something clicked, like, "Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
I'm supposed to be doing this."
Mhm.
I stumbled across it now so many years later, but I was always meant to do something like this, so it
Yeah,
feels good.
yeah, that was my impression as well. So how would you describe, I mean, you came in and sat down, we started doing this. How
Mhm.
do you think that we have transformed in our dynamic? I mean, our dynamic was pretty easy from the very beginning, I think,
Mhm.
right? We were pretty comfortable right away.
Yeah.
What do you think we've gotten better at?
Reading cues,
Ah, from each other?
facial expressions, and indicators, and our little telltales. Yes, there is so much unspoken that we pay attention to and read on each other. I just have to give JD the eyeballs, and then he knows he's been talking for far too long.
Ah, yeah.
But then you are also able to sense when and you may not agree with this, but there's times where I'm talking and I'm like, "I don't know where I'm going with what I'm saying right now," and you're able to be like, "Okay, I'm just gonna guide
Yeah,
her topic, and we're
I'll
gonna
pull
just
you out of
keep."
the water.
Yeah, right? Like, maybe it's really obvious to you and the listeners, and I don't notice it, but
Mm-mm.
I feel like you're really intuitive.
Oh,
Like, we
thanks.
have an intuition about each other that has grown over the time of being in the studio.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. And I've noticed from my perspective that you've been picking up not just better on cues like that, but you kinda have a good cadence of when you're ready to step in, right? And you I can see the file folders going in your eye, like, where you're choosing between 3 or 4 different things to say,
That's so funny.
right? So which is great because
Yeah.
that what that does is that just engenders a broader conversation, and it takes it out of my hands to just ask
Mhm.
questions, right? Which I know at the beginning, I was doing a lot of that.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I I kind of and like the viewers may start to notice this too. If anyone has a cat, which I'm not bringing him up on intention,
Always
but
the cat.
you know what?
Anyway,
Hush.
sorry, your point?
If anyone's ever had a cat or watched a cat, like when they're preparing to pounce, like they get all like bunched up and they're like little tail swishes and they get really antsy and then they
Mhm.
pounce on it. And I feel like I get that way when I have
You
something
do.
to say.
You totally do. That's actually a perfect analogy. That's
Anyways,
that's
enough of
that's
that.
great. Alright, and then as far as the other thing I was wondering, personally, just kinda off the top here, obviously, we do this in the context of both being coaches, we do this in context of our own work,
Mhm.
our own interests, our own relationships. How has doing this show contributed to your own personal growth? I know it's a big question, so whatever comes to mind is probably fine to talk about.
Is it fine to talk
It
about?
is fine to
Okay.
talk about, yeah.
Um, wow, that is kind of a big question, but I feel like this show has held me to a higher standard of, I don't want to say excellency, but where I might be, I have to be able to show up really professional, but also myself at the same time.
Mm,
Because you and I being ourselves is like the lifeblood of this show.
this is true.
That's why this, I believe, a good portion of why this show is successful. And
Mhm.
there were, times where I'm like, before the show where I might be going through something and it would just kind of like take over my entire day. Whereas like when I come into the studio, I have to be able to like leave all that behind. And then I'm like, oh, that's right. Like life is so multidimensional that this is so fun. And it's always so grounding when I come in here
Yeah.
that I'm like, where else in life could I find this kind of experience
Mhm.
outside of the studio?
Yeah.
But also then I'm like, okay, as I've been going through the last year and over the different episodes of people have heard, a lot of times you and I will have a conversation or something will come up and then we're like, oh, we have our topic, or
Mhm.
whatever. Uh, and in years past, like things would come to mind and I'd be like, oh, that's an interesting thought. And then just let it, flutter on by. And now when I hear those things, I'm like, oh, maybe I should ponder that a little more.
Mm.
I'm now curious about looking into it. I guess that's it, is like I have grown a curiosity for a lot of things in life over the past year because of this show.
That's perfect. Yeah, I agree. I think, it's been the same for me. This show does not work live or it recorded if you and
Mhm.
I aren't present right here,
No, yeah.
right? It just doesn't work, right? If we're not connected in these conversations, it doesn't work, and that's one of the reasons why we love doing the show. I know
Mhm.
that's why people enjoy listening to it because I think people pick up on that, right? We're not we know where we're going, but we're not overly scripted, right?
Well, I mean, that's
And
like the one I remember that being like one of 2 things that I always said I wanted this show to be. I wanted to feel very familiar, like people are just kinda observing us from afar in a coffee shop or something, like it just feels very, like, connected and
Mhm.
personal, but also for people who tune in, whether it's radio, online, podcast, YouTube, whatever, that they leave with something positive.
Yeah.
Maybe it was comedy. Maybe it was really good
Love
knowledge
that.
about something, they learned something, or they have a new thing that they're gonna try in life, or they found some inspiration or whatever. I just always wanted listeners to leave with something better than how they first found us, I
Well,
guess.
and based on the feedback we've been getting, that happens a lot, right? So we'll
Love
talk about
that.
that a little bit more. Now, just for fun, Ashley, we're gonna go down memory lane here.
Oh,
I wanna
snap.
play for you, as well as for all of our listeners, the very first moment that Ashley came on the show.
Oh,
So,
no.
and
What?
but yeah,
Oh
I
gosh.
want people to hear it in case they're new to the show. I want you to hear the difference. All right. So, Eric, if you've got that, let's go ahead and cue up. Here's the clip of Ashley on. It's in episode 27 of Staying Power, showing up for the first time on mic. Here we go. Ashley Kniebel. Hi, Ashley.
Hi.
It's your big debut. How are you feeling?
Oh my gosh. We're here. I'm really excited. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. I'm excited to have you. The reason why I asked you to come on, of course, is because this is a show about resilience. And I shared last week about how my journey to becoming a human potential coach and all of the ups and downs and all that. Did you get a chance to listen to that?
I did.
You did?
It was a great episode.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
I'm a
that.
fan.
I appreciate oh, you're yay. That's so exciting. But I wanted you to come on because I thought like, okay, where's a good stepping point from that? And I thought maybe talking to somebody else who was kind of new to the coaching game and the same kind of coaching, human potential coaching,
Mhm.
might be a good way to go about it. Plus, we're friends. We know each other from business networking originally and have become
Mhm.
friends since then. And I thought, plus, you're also super, super fun. So I thought I would
I'm
bring you
okay.
on. You're okay.
All right.
So this is an opportunity for you to, to share a little bit about that and just see where this goes. So I'm wondering, in a show about resilience, and I know you've listened for a little while,
Mhm.
when you hear that word, what does it mean to you? And where do you see that in your own life? Where are your
Mm.
challenges or your successes with that?
That is a really good question. For me, resiliency is all about one, knowing yourself, really being honest and true about your emotions and your feelings and what they are, naming them and accepting them and being okay with them
Mhm.
and standing firm in those and yet still moving forward in life and facing everything that comes at you. But just knowing that as long as you're staying true to yourself, that you're going to be okay.
Mm.
And no matter what comes up or what comes at you or what you're facing, it's still going to be all right and you're still going to make it out on the other side.
Oh, I like that. Look at that. Wow.
I sound the same.
You do not sound the same.
You really
You
don't
do
think so?
not sound the same. Not
I'm
to me.
laughing.
You're
I'm
laughing.
smart. I'm you can understand me in the microphone. It's the same.
It's I know you're not. I know that's not the truth.
That's so funny.
I have two things. First of all, really quality statement right out of the gate on resilience.
Yeah, I
mean,
would listen to myself.
Yeah, very good.
Sorry.
Very
What?
good. Now, what comes to mind when you hear that?
I'm like, who is that?
Okay, so yeah, you were joking. Right, of course. That's what I thought. So what did you hear that's different?
Well, I mean, I guess it's a little funny because I do remember that moment, and I remember trying to sound really like confident and professional and all these things, and in the back of my mind, I'm like super nervous. I'm like, am I saying the right thing? Am I pronouncing
Mhm.
everything right? Like, how does this even make sense what I'm saying right now? But I can see, I'm like, there was so much insight in there. There was like these little seeds that had been planted that like over
Mhm.
the year have like been watered and grown and blossomed and
Yeah, I
whatnot.
noticed that too.
I think I hear the difference.
It's like the basis, the foundation of the last year in the very first thing that you
Yeah.
just said. Yeah,
Wow.
which is interesting.
That's cool.
And I can tell the difference because I sit right across from you, right?
Well,
But I can tell that difference. Okay, now, really quickly, I want to show everybody how quickly you adjust it. A handful of episodes later, episode 45, I want them to hear this clip of some wisdom you threw out and just listen to the difference.
okay. But a lot of times, and right now, it seems like it's very trendy online right now to work so much that you burn out, and there's the daily grind and, like take no breaks,
Oh yeah.
and I don't
Mail
know
order your
when,
food, right?
yeah, when it became cool to not take care of yourself and just
As a sign of
like,
strength. Right?
yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, sure, you can cut short on your resting and your recharging, but you will pay for it later. And
Oh,
right
yeah.
now it's really easy to just band-aid it by drinking caffeine or whatnot. You're like, oh, I got no sleep. But I pounded down 3 cups of coffee or my energy drinks or whatnot.
Yep.
And then
Picked up food on the way home.
yeah,
fast food.
right. Yep.
Mhm.
And I'm good to go and we can keep on rolling. And you will only be able to do that for so long before your body tells you, no, I am not designed this way.
Oh yeah.
This will not do forever.
Oh,
You
yeah.
must take care of me. Otherwise, I will force you.
There you go. Look at that.
Mhm.
You remember that episode?
I do remember that one.
That's episode 45. That's the Solopreneur Starter Kit episode. I loved that one. You had a bunch of analogies in there too, like taking care of flowers, and you talked about the white eyeballs, like we're wide by surprise. You have a
Mhm.
lot of those. What sounds different there,
Thanks.
real quick, before we go to break? What do you notice there that's different from the first one?
I personally, and again, it's probably because I do remember how I felt, my mindset and my experience by that time. But by that time, I have nestled in and felt so comfortable that I'm like, in the first one, I'm like, I need to be so prepared
Mhm.
because I don't trust myself yet to know what I'm doing. And by the second clip, I'm like, not shooting from the hip, but shooting from my experience. And I
Ooh.
don't think any of that, there was no script, there was no predetermination of anything besides of just the topic itself.
Mhm.
And the rest was just me talking
Yep.
from my experience and what felt right.
Yep, and you just did again, just now, what you do every single episode. You come up with some statement like you just did, not shooting from the hip, but shooting from my experience. There's at least one of those moments every single episode that we could all find. In fact, we'll talk a little bit more
Wow.
about that later. So, all right, speaking of later, we need to take a quick break here on Staying Power. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about Ashley's 1-year anniversary since joining the show, and kind of broaden out the conversation a little bit more about what we can all learn in a year ourselves. So we'll be back in just a second here.
Are you ready to discover remarkable stories of resilience and cultural connection? This is Diaspora, a show sharing the journeys of first-generation immigrants from the Indian subcontinent now building their lives in North America. Inspiring, insightful, and always engaging, Diaspora offers a unique perspective on the immigrant experience. Join me, Aditya Mehta, my guests, on the Diaspora Show every Wednesday at 2 p.m. right here on KKNW.
Don't ask me to talk.
There's a lot of talk out there.
political talk, sports talk, girl talk, trash talk, and so on. But there's only one, Don't Ask Me to Talk, helmed by conversational off-roaders and podcast pals Eric Ryder and Stacey Heller. They follow every tangent they encounter, from cultural blind spots to their infamous weekly Wheelo topics. Listen wherever you listen to your fave podcasts. Subscribe and share too. Or tune in every Saturday at 3 p.m. or Tuesday at 4 p.m. on KKNW.
Make us part of your daily routine. Alternative Talk 1150.
Welcome back to Staying Power. JD here with Ashley.
Hello.
And we are kind of reminiscing today. It's been a year since Ashley joined Staying Power as co-host. And I think anybody who's been listening for either a short period of time, but certainly those of you who've been listening for a long period of time will agree. She is the straw that stirs the drink. That is what makes this show go. It's what gives it its energy. And so we're kind of part reminiscing, part celebrating a little bit. So if I had a cupcake, I would give you one with a candle in it.
And for all viewers and listeners, this was a total surprise. I did not. I know, like a while back, you're like, "Oh, I'm going to do something good for you, like 1 year," and I remembered it, but I didn't realize it was coming up so soon. So
So what does that teach you?
I need to watch out. But this is
when I
cool.
say
It's like a
something,
real-
I might do it.
You might do it, and he remembers dates.
Yeah.
So this is cool.
Okay. So, all right. So good. I'm glad you think so. But it's in the broader context of me remembering dates. I tend to look back from the date that I'm remembering and I look back a year, and maybe that's a really common thing. I don't know if you do that. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
It's like
So
markers.
yes, we do that. And so I spent a lot of time on that. And I think what's fun about looking back on this year is seeing it's a joy for me to see how much you've grown in the role and I know it's done a lot for you. I know it's done a lot for me. I'm going to share a little bit more about that a little bit later in the show. But I thought for this portion of the show, we could talk a little bit about just what it's like to do this, right? And
Mhm.
the course we've taken, the habits we've developed, kind of what the cadence is like. So maybe giving people a little bit behind the scenes kind of view. So, what do you think, either for you or for us, when you think about the process of how we do the show, right? And I know you said at the very beginning it's been smooth
Mhm.
since the very beginning. What are some hurdles that either you felt you've had to overcome or we've overcome to make this smoother and bigger? Because the show has grown since you came on.
It certainly has grown.
Right.
I don't know if we had hurdles, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I mean, there was certainly a learning curve on my side.
Maybe
of
that's a
it.
better way to put it.
And there was a learning curve for you too, because you had to learn to share the mic. And I say that as a joke, but kindly also, because
You're right. Go ahead.
but because you were so used to kind of like running shows and either doing it by yourself or
Right.
you would do it with other people, but like mostly the show was like always about you. Let's be honest. And all of a sudden now there's somebody who's new that you're like, okay, I do need to kind of frame the show a little bit, but also give this person leadway to be able to kind of nestle into their role on the show and be there to like pick them up if they're getting a little lost in the stray, but also give them a good boost so they feel really comfortable and confident. And you've done a great job by all
Appreciate
means. But I think we just kind of like learned together how much level of prep is needed. I know at one point I'm like, oh man, we need to, and it was my nerves talking about like, we need to like hammer all this out and I need to have notes. And I know, that.
Brought your big notebook every week.
I know. And now I'm like, notebook.
Well, no.
What's that for?
Yeah, we kind of know what we got to cover.
Yeah, and
Right.
and repetition and practice will do that. But that was just a noticeable change from the beginning towards now. Is like we used to, at least I felt like we needed a lot more time to prepare. And then as I was getting more experience, I'm like, we are prepared because we are who we are.
Mhm.
And that is preparation enough. Now, unless we're wanting to do some research and have factual things.
Or if we
of
have
course.
guests.
Yeah, or
Right.
that's a whole
Right.
different thing. But I don't think there was any real hurdles actually.
Okay.
And maybe we're fortunate with that. That I think yours and mine friendship it's so woven together naturally. And we knew each other before this, so there was never like that period of learning about each other on air
Hmm.
that it was already so comfortable. And I'm like, we're just talking.
Yes.
And
Okay.
people are eavesdropping.
Yeah. I think learning curve is probably a better word than hurdles, because you're right. And all laughing aside on my part, you're absolutely right. The challenge for me, or the learning curve for me, was where's the dividing line, that particularly at first this was a challenge, between making sure the show is moving forward and you feel like you know where to step in, right?
Mhm.
And making sure I'm not reducing the amount of space you have to step into.
Mhm.
And I think in some of the earlier episodes, in fact, that first clip, you could hear it. That first clip I played before of your first
Yep.
time on the mic, I contextualized a lot
Everything.
at the
Yeah.
front
It
end.
was like
right?
Mad Libs. I'm just
Right.
filling in
Trying
blanks.
to set you up so you knew exactly what I was saying. And clearly in retrospect, that's an overcorrection, right? On my part, right? Or overplay on my part. But that is true. Making sure that space is available for you
Mhm.
to bounce around in. But I think that was probably the initial part of the learning curve. I think on the prep side, we come in, we know we've already talked a little bit, just give people kind of a view of this. We usually, we might talk right after an episode.
Mhm.
Hey, we should do something on this. That happens from time to time where we know there's things that we could pull in that we want to do. There's other times it's like on Sunday afternoons when we
Yeah,
both
that's
have
right.
time to kind of,
Reflect.
we're unwinding, right? We're reflecting, we're resting, we'll connect, we'll talk about something that'll come up. There have been times where we've come in and changed the idea of what we're going to do, change the
Oh
topic
yeah, like just before going on air.
just before going on air sometimes. Yeah. And then there's been other times, like a few weeks ago, we had that one where you and I had what was that? Not an argument, but a
Oh
conflict.
man.
Yeah.
That was a fun one.
Where we knew right at the end of that conversation, it was like, well, we have a topic for
Mhm.
for the next show. Right. There's all of that.
Yeah.
And what's fun about that is when I look back on a year of shows, it feels like an ongoing conversation. A lot of those things kind of dovetail and fold back in, and sometimes the topics, reconnect with each other.
Mhm.
But that's sort of how relationships are, right? That's
Yeah.
how connection is. We go deeper. And I think I was spending some time going over stuff for this show, working on it with Eric. And I'm looking back going, wow, we steadily get deeper and deeper each time we come back to a familiar topic,
This is true.
which is fun. And it's never repetitive, even though the subjects can
Mhm.
interweave. It's never repetitive. And that's something I'm very proud of.
I really like that observation, and I would second that, and even encourage listeners, if they hear one semi recently, they're like, "Oh, that topic was really good. Really liked what they said." Maybe go back and listen to like the first one that we did of that
Mhm.
topic that was on like a lighter level, and just to see the difference. I think we should go back to like our 4 agreements at some point. I'm sure that
Oh,
would be
yeah,
that's
the one
been
about
like a
agreements.
flagship show, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we had, I think, didn't we do 3
Mhm.
shows on agreements?
That little series.
Yeah, like the spoken and unspoken agreements we all abide by in relationships, whether we're aware of them
Mhm.
or not. And the idea was that the more intentional we are, the more
Yep.
empowered we are, the more connected
Mhm.
we are, and the less reactive and more responsive we can be. Yeah, we got a lot of positive feedback on those, right? And we've
Mhm.
gotten real positive feedback on our episodes with guests. We've had
some good
had some
guests.
really good ones, and at the risk of missing some, Chris Wolf, Kai Roberts Fu, Dina Mehta.
Mhm.
I know there's
Tucker Miller.
Tucker
He's
Miller.
good.
Yeah, I mean, Tucker Miller came on and talked about her book. I mean, you and I were just ready to hand her the show.
Yeah.
And
Like, I don't need to
it's
say
like,
anything here.
Here, you
Here's
do
your show.
this. You do this. Yeah. I mean, and every single one of them brought brought overlapping subjects,
Mhm.
right? Well, which is why we brought them on. But I loved how each of those has illustrated the universality of the things that we're talking about, right? Resilience, self-awareness. Like,
That word.
it is now. If you get to
Your
make them
turn.
up, I get to make them up.
It's okay. I don't even know if I could say that word. That was good.
Yeah.
Sorry,
so-
keep going.
No, it's fine. I just what I like about it is that we're showing and experiencing in real time on this show just how much the things we talk about connect
Mhm.
across the board, no matter what the subject is.
Yes.
And that is exciting because that means that we have a never-ending pool of content that we can draw from. Because as long as you and I are breathing, as long as you and I are
Above
communicating,
ground.
we're gonna above ground, we're gonna have stuff to talk about.
Mhm. I like that. Well, and I mean, even if the listeners have listened to like some of the very first few, like we had a vision for this podcast. And I remember even thinking back then, like the vision was just seemingly at the time like grandiose and huge. And I'm like, I want us to be able to do that. And I believe we can, but a lot of it was just like, can we? Like,
Mhm.
can I envision something I've had no part of before and envision it as my reality?
Yeah, because you're brand new to this.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
we're talking about growing our network and making it so large where we're like sponsoring other shows or doing like weekend workshops and like traveling around with it. And I'm like, can we really do that? Like, I don't know. Maybe we'll just stay here in the studio and it'll just be this, but like it'd be awesome if it could be that, but can it?
Mhm.
And in like 1 year, we've made so many leaps and bounds in that
We
direction
have.
that I'm just like so proud and impressed that it just really goes to show like in 1 year you can accomplish a lot. And if you really have an intention of doing something, you can actually make it happen.
It's true, and to add to that, you're right, and it does take mutual belief and support,
Mhm.
right? I don't think if either one
100%.
of us was wanting to do that on our own,
No.
I don't think we have that expansion going on. And there's things we haven't hit yet. Weekend workshops are still on the way. But we are producing podcasts now, right? We have
Oh,
news on that a little later in the show, and we have more on the way, and so that part is really starting to take off, and that is allowing for a lot more, many more opportunities coming in a lot of different directions, and so that part's exciting. I have to give you credit for that though, because I think on some level, because your enthusiasm about it, right? Because I was thinking, this is what I want to do. Can I do it? Because
mhm.
people can forget I'm still new to this too. I've only been doing this 4 years, maybe in
Yeah,
varying
true.
capacities. So I'm
Sure.
still new at it as well. So I wasn't sure it was even a thing. But then you being so excited about it, and then every time we talked about it, there were more ideas coming. It helped me go, you know what? Yeah, we can do this.
Hmm,
It's unique.
cool.
I'm not the only person with a vision like this. I'm not completely crazy.
Mhm.
And if I am crazy and I now have somebody to accompany me
Wish you're in good
on the
company.
crazy train, right, to make it happen, right? But it's been good, and the fun part of that expansion is we've been able to work with other creators who have been inspired by that same vision
Yes.
and have taken a chance to step out on their own with their own shows and become a part of this larger kind of incubator that we're building here. And that's really rewarding as well. And of course, as they reach more listeners and they get more plugged in, it makes the umbrella cover more and more as
Mhm.
time goes by. And that's been very gratifying over the last year.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed my enthusiasm
Oh
because
yeah.
I thank you for that. I don't know, I just as much as every once in a while I'm like, "Can we do this?" Because again, it was like I'm trying to envision something so much larger than any sort of experience I've ever had and envision it and believe in it to be actually going to happen. But then I was like, "Well, why wouldn't it happen?" Like, why do we always think like, "Is it going to happen?" Like, I think you should be like, "Well, why wouldn't it?"
Mhm.
If I want it to happen and I'm gonna work for it, like, because I haven't done it before, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen.
Right.
So,
Right. And we
you
need to
know,
be able to pivot. You can't necessarily predict the pace
right.
of the outcome. It may look different, and it
Mhm.
has, right? It's looked different than how you and I initially envisioned it, even though it was just a very general vision.
Yeah.
But what's gratifying about that is the specificity comes in. I mean, we've been able to meet and work with just an incredibly diverse group of people.
100%.
Yeah, and just wait, listeners, as when you hear more of what's to come in the Staying Power Network that we're on the verge of announcing, you're going to see how wide a variety of people we're about to be
You
working
know?
with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's super fun. It's super fun. It feels great to be kind of the flagship show of this effort, right? And I'm looking forward to the next steps. Is there anything come to mind in terms of the future, the next thing, other than the new shows that are going to be coming soon? What what's foremost on your mind of where we can go in this new year that's next that we
Mm.
could do quickly?
I mean, I would say the initial vision of in this next year would be to continue doing what we're doing right now
Mhm.
because I think there's always room for scaling and we have the intention of scaling, but at least me personally, I wanna make sure that I can help us scale at the rate and speed that I can handle.
Sure.
Now, it's one thing to push yourself, right?
Mhm.
But you also don't want to take on too much, because at that point, you're also responsible for other people and live shows.
100%.
And, if you're going to put your word out there, you want to be able to keep it.
Right.
So I envision us signing more shows,
Mhm.
getting sponsors,
Mhm.
and maybe do an event if we have it, like a roundtable,
Mhm.
a flagship roundtable of some
That'd
of
be
the
fun.
first few people,
Mhm.
and something of that nature, and try and like have a way to connect with our listeners more.
Yeah.
Would be awesome.
Yep. I think
You have something.
that you summarized it really
Oh,
well. I think
you're welcome.
besides expanding the amount of shows, I think giving more options to our audience, right?
Mhm.
We have a very, very dedicated, loyal following that has been built. And this takes time. When I first got into doing this, very wise people who've done this for a lot longer than me, and some of them are listeners now, said it is all about just keep going,
Mhm.
right? Building an audience takes time. And when you're doing it in the way that we are, where we have a lot of other things going on, we have lives that we're building with all those things that go with it, and all the challenges, all the stresses, all the responsibilities, it takes time, right? And it takes
Mhm.
a consistent effort. And so I do think with that, though, the next step becomes, once the quality is there, once the feeling is there, once the support is there, where there's people going, yeah, this is good to listen to, starting to expand the reach a little bit, so that
Mhm.
not only can we reach more people, but the people who are already loyal to us can be pushing it out in more places. And social media is a big place for that, for sure.
Sure.
And so that's certainly an element of it. And there's other things too. There's we've talked about this a little bit, Ashley, but I don't think you give yourself enough credit as a writer.
What?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some things that we can be putting out there for people that would be, nice, straightforward reads of some of our thoughts and opinions on some things. I have some thoughts on this. Right?
Okay.
So
All
those
right.
and that's the thing. In this age that we're in, you can cruise that kind of content and get it out literally around the world in seconds. And
This is
so
true.
I'm hoping that we can do that. Okay, so let's take another break. And when we come back, Ashley and I will do our 1-year anniversary edition of the 2 minutes. And this week it's 2 minutes of triumph. And then we'll finish off this episode taking a look a year back at Ashley's arrival here on Staying Power. See you in just a minute.
Hello, I'm Chris Erdman. Every Wednesday at 8 a.m. on KKNW, I sit down with inspiring entrepreneurs, creative minds, and game changers to uncover the real stories behind their business. On my show, Made of More, we explore the challenges that they've overcome, the breakthroughs that they've celebrated, and the mindset that drives them forward. If you're ready to unlock your full entrepreneurial potential, Made of More is the show for you, because here we know you are made of more. Every Wednesday at 8 a.m. on KKNW.
I just got a text asking me to approve a bank transfer I didn't make. I bet you get messages like this too. So much of our lives are online today, from email to banking and everything in between. To make sure my information was protected, I checked out CISA's Secure Our World website for simple steps to stay safe online. Now I know how to protect myself from scammers, and you can learn too. Go to CISA at cisa.gov/Secure Our World.
Want to hear something different from talk radio? Keep your dial on Alternative Talk 1150.
Welcome back to Staying Power. JD here with Ashley.
Hi.
And we are kind of reminiscing this week. Ashley joined the show a year ago tomorrow, as a matter of fact. And so kind of taking a look back on the growth of Staying Power, what each of us has learned. And I guess it's been, to a certain degree, we've talked about how we've grown, in our friendship. We'll get to that here in just a minute. And then I have some thoughts at the end of today's
Of
episode
course
that I
you
want to
do.
share. Of course I do. So you're going to have to hand over the mic. But with that saying, let's do our weekly segment where Ashley and I each take 2 minutes and talk about something during the week that, in this case, was a triumph, all in the name of sharing about our lives, vulnerability, and allowing ourselves to be celebrated. Here we go.
Yes.
Always a classic. Okay, well, as you said, in the name of vulnerability, my triumph, this is almost embarrassing to admit out loud, but I am sure there's somebody that will relate to this, I was able to master doing podcasting, and I finally was really able to master driving through a car wash with my own car. Okay.
Please explain.
And I did it without a flaw. I've always been nervous to drive through the car wash, and I don't know why. I guess I assumed the little tracks that you have to get your car on are like these like ice skating width things to put your car on. I don't know, but I was always nervous to drive through it.
Oh, because you're worried you're going to miss those.
Yeah, like what if I get off track and then I'm backing up the whole car wash? I don't know.
Gotcha.
So anyways, went to the car wash, accidentally put my car in reverse and almost hit the car behind me instead of neutral, but we made it through. No one was harmed. All was good. Car was cleaned.
So it's not a claustrophobic thing like where all the
No.
brushes. So it's not that. It's getting onto the track.
Yeah, and then just cruising in neutral is so weird.
Okay, now I also know,
good.
Ashley, this is a big deal because you normally don't go into those things, not just because of that, but because you love to wash your car
Yes,
by hand.
Thank you. I'm so passionately loving washing my own car, and I did it like forever growing up. I washed my parents' cars, my brother's car, his car, and everything. And I take time. People are like, "Well, go to the quick little, do it yourself wash." I'm like, no, because it's only on for like 5-10 minutes. Like I take like an hour plus when I'm washing my own car. So, anyways,
So you almost detail it.
yeah,
Yeah.
Why not?
There you go.
Anyways,
It's worthy of your
it's
love.
part of my space, and
Yeah.
if I paid every penny for my car, I'm gonna appreciate it. So,
Absolutely. And you love cars, period. So
I
that
do.
reflected.
So
Okay.
made it through car wash.
Very good. All right. Well, congratulations.
Thank
on
you.
particularly not hitting the car behind you. It's really good.
A little embarrassing.
Always good. All right. My triumph this week is actually kind of a triumph for the larger show. We were just talking about it before the
Oh.
break. And if you listen to the commercials that were, between things, you heard the commercial for a new show called Made of More, hosted by Chris Erdman.
Mhm.
That is a new Staying Power Network show that just launched today.
It's our
As a matter
second
of fact,
child.
it's our second child. This is the rambunctious one, right? The second child.
Yes.
So to go with Diaspora, which our friend Addie Meta
It's
does,
the golden child, right?
and that show has really taken off. What a great series of stories that Addie is telling in
Mhm.
Diaspora. And Made of More is going to be Chris, who's an entrepreneur himself, very successful one, talking with entrepreneurs, not just about their business, but about really what's underneath that, hence the name Made of More.
Mhm.
It's really the human stories behind these really great, successful business people. And he's already recorded a few episodes. The first one that premiered today and will be up as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts, is with Carissa Brashear, who owns Gourmet Latte, which is a chain of coffee places here in the Pacific Northwest. There's one in Florida, I also found out.
Oh wow.
And wow, what a great interview that is on both their parts. And so be checking that out. And if you're listening to it on the radio, it's on Wednesdays. Right now, it's Wednesdays, 8 a.m. Pacific time. Right now, all the Staying Power shows are on Wednesdays. Pretty soon, we're going to be taking over
I think-
Wednesdays.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's gonna be Staying Power Wednesday.
Staying Power Wednesday.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So, okay. So
That's
that's our
cool.
2 minutes here. So
How cool
congratulations,
is
Chris.
that?
Congratulations,
Right?
Chris, on Made of More. Really excited to see that take off. Happy to be a part of it. Okay. So back to our own show, Ashley.
Right.
In the last few minutes here, I was, just kind of taking kind of a deep breath, looking back. We've covered a lot.
Mhm.
Everything we've talked about is a testimony to the notion of staying power,
Mhm.
right? We've committed to this. We've done a lot of hard work on this. We don't always know where it's going to go. You kind of invest in this and you go on faith and you kind of go on whatever you can get out there. And you have to be open to unexpected things happening, both in a positive sense and negative sense. You came on out of the blue. You were offered this gig.
Yes.
Right.
Very much out of the blue.
Out of the blue, right? And I'll never forget how excited you were when that
was like,
happened. It was
"Me?
like
Really?
the
Me?"
best Zoom call ever. But you came on and suddenly had to go, okay, staying power,
Mhm.
right? Now you knew enough of that because with human potential coaching and things like that, we had a common vocabulary there.
Mhm.
But what is that term now in terms of how the show goes? Has it changed at all or grown from where you first were when you came into your understanding of it from your experience?
Absolutely. I
Okay.
mean, I think I had a good idea on paper of what it is.
Mhm.
And then when you go through a year, kind of like what you said, explaining it is there's so much that you're going to go through that you don't know that you're going to go through, both good and bad. And as long as you have something that is like your North Star that you continue to move towards, like you will get through so many things. You're going to have a lot of things to celebrate. You're going to have a lot of things to mourn, and it will continue to shape you. And if you have the right mindset and the right vision, it will still shape you to the betterment of you.
Mm,
As long as you really stay steadfast and true into what your vision is and what you want.
mm,
And I know like we had a vision and I had ideas of what I wanted, but and I don't mean like just in the show. I mean like in life in general. When I look back a year and I see like what have I gone through in a whole year and how much have I grown? I'm like, but I really stayed true to some things that matter to me. And I cut out some things and I solidified other things, but I never gave up on myself, I guess, is the whole point, is I never did, and I kept the vision, and it has still like, I learned so much. I learned how to count on myself and know that I have my own back forever,
mm.
and to
You have your
know
own back
that
forever. That's good.
to
See?
know
Another one of those
that,
things.
it's like you feel like you're almost unstoppable, like you can do
Yeah.
anything.
Mhm. Mhm. I like
That's
that.
what I got.
You have your own back forever. See? That's another one of those things. See?
I'll just drop a mic
Every
somewhere.
single episode. Every single episode.
Do you have
Uh,
one?
well, you kind of said it really well. I don't think I can really improve on that. But yes, but I think if I had to summarize it under one thing that has really my awareness about staying power has grown is how much we need other people.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Not that we can't learn resilience on our own, right? And in the end, it's an inside job, right?
Mhm.
Whatever resilience we're developing, whatever happiness we have, whatever peace we have, it's an inside job. We have to learn how to connect with that in ourselves without diminishing the importance of things on the outside, right?
Right.
And but particularly of other people. And it's a fine line, right? Because we don't want to over depend on other people, and we also don't want to just under depend on them, right? I mean,
Right,
because we're
yeah.
we're wired for that kind of connection. So for me, in the experience of doing this with you, where that has been made clearer and clearer each week,
Mhm.
that a big part of staying power for anything is having people who you connect with who understand what you're doing, who connect with it, are participating in it in whatever way that is appropriate for them to participate, so that you, the person going through that, knows that while you are responsible for all your own steps, you have support for those times when you stumble, and you have support for those triumphs you've got when you cross those finish lines. You have people who know what it took for you to do that. And I feel
that.
like you and I do that every single week, and even without even trying. And
Mhm.
then now this is a moment where we can kind of celebrate
I
that.
like that.
Okay. All right, good. All right. So now, Ashley,
JD.
this is where I'm going to be taking the mic here for a little while because there's some things I want to share with you.
Yeah, your notes are a lot thicker than mine.
Uh-huh. Yep. Show notes are thicker than yours because I in the last few minutes here, I want to really kind of focus this in on you and
Okay.
just
Stop.
as an expression of appreciation, but also to give you some perspective
What?
on what your last year
Wow.
has sounded like and been like for me, as well as for listeners.
Okay.
Here, let me just say a few things. And I'm actually going to be reading a lot of this, people, because that's, and I don't normally do that, but I really wanted to get this right. So I'm going to be reading a lot of what I'm saying here, so I can make sure the words are right. I really wanted to give these thought.
Okay.
Okay. So here we go. Ashley, you've been showing up for our listeners week after week with, as they say, empathy, insight, and a unique ability to be fully present in the moment. So I've decided to flip the script and have some people show up for you. Here are some words from people whose lives you've impacted this past year on this show. And these are quotes. Quote, Ashley has this way of making the hard stuff feel a little more possible. It's like she's talking directly to me every time I listen. Here's another quote. There's a groundedness in her voice that helps me reset. I'm a better parent and a calmer human thanks to what she shares. Yes, I went and found all this.
Oh my goodness.
Right. Quote, she's so real. I laugh, I cry, and I think more deeply because of her. That's a rare gift. Ashley brings a refreshing perspective that complements JD's insights and tone perfectly. I like that one. I figured you'd like that. Another one. Her authenticity and willingness to share personal stories make the episodes more relatable. And there's more to come. So let me just kind of reflect you personally.
Wow.
So I know. So take that in. I'm not done. There's more.
We have
Okay.
time for all this?
So we will. We'll
Okay,
get
okay.
there. Okay. Maybe. I want to take, though, for listeners, a moment here and reflect a little bit on what I've learned from working with Ashley over this past year. You might think, as the historian in the room, I'd be the one offering the big picture frameworks, but more often than not, Ashley's the one who reminds me how to zoom in. Reflecting on our journey, Ashley, I've learned the power of vulnerability and the strength in authenticity from you. Your ability to connect deeply with our audience has enriched our conversations and broadened my perspective. From your debut to our recent discussions, your growth has been remarkable. You've transitioned from co-host to a cornerstone of Staying Power, bringing depth and clarity and no small amount of joy to our dialogues. If anyone goes back and listens to Ashley's very first episode, which you heard some of, you'll hear someone already full of insight and courage. But what's happened since then has been nothing short of remarkable. Over time, you hear her voice change, not just in tone, but in ownership. You hear her challenge guests more, challenge me more, trust her instincts more, and open up in ways that help the rest of us to do the same. This show has become a co-creation, Ashley, in every sense of the word. And that's not just something to celebrate, it's something to learn from. Here are some other favorite Ashleyisms from listeners. Quote, when Ashley says, let's unpack that, I know a deep dive is coming. Her laugh is contagious. That laugh, just that laugh. It brings joy to every episode. Quote, when she says, I've been thinking about this a lot, that means buckle up. Quote, when she quietly says, let's sit with that for a minute, that's always a moment where something profound is about to be said. Ashley, your genuine approach makes complex topics feel relatable. Thank you for being a guiding light. And your empathy and insight have helped me navigate challenging times. Grateful for your presence on the show. And then finally, one I got just before we went on air. Ashley's fit into the podcast has been so natural, it feels like she's been there forever. It's almost hard to imagine the show without her. It's fun to hear her take on unique topics, and she's a perfect balance to what JD brings. It's obvious that she lives with intention and has a kind soul. So, in the last few minutes, right? These signature moments, I don't think you're aware of this, have become perhaps the most beloved aspects of the show on a weekly basis. Your impact is profound, and those messages are a testament to that. You've taught me how powerful it is to hold space instead of always filling it. You've helped me listen better to others and to myself. And you've shown me that you don't need to be the loudest voice in the room to be the most resonant. Your voice has become part of the rhythm of our weeks and of our lives. And I'm not just talking about the sound of it. I mean the space that you hold, the insight you bring, and the calm strength that you offer. We've laughed a lot. We've hit some walls. And every time you've helped us pivot with grace and authenticity. That's rare. And that's true staying power. So as we close out this anniversary episode, everyone, I'd like to propose something simple, a toast.
A toast.
Okay, but we're going to do a different kind of toast. If you have a drink, listeners, pick one up.
What about toast?
There we go. Here's to Ashley for her humor, her heart, her honesty, whose wisdom, compassion, and authenticity have become the heart of staying power, beating more strongly with each passing week. May we continue to grow and inspire together. And thank you for showing us all what staying power really means. And so our toast is going to be, like we tell our listeners all the time, let's just take a deep breath. Take one, Ashley. There you go. All right. Here's to year 2. Ashley, thanks so much.
Wow. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for doing
no
this.
Words for once.
Well, next week you'll have more.
Okay.
So, all right. And next week we'll be back with another episode of Staying Power. Thank you so much for joining us for this 1-year anniversary celebration of Ashley's arrival. The show has not been the same since, and we're all better for it. We will see you all next week. Until then, I am JD.
And I'm Ashley.
See you soon.
Bye.